Okay, it's my privilege to introduce our final keynote speaker, Scott Watterson. Scott, as you know, is one of the co-founders of Icon Health and Fitness, which is the world leader in fitness equipment, health equipment. They have innovated treadmills, stationary bikes, ellipticals, shoes, wearables, and so on, and they lead the industry. And the brands, you probably know the brands. Some of them are Nordic Track, Proform, Free Motion. Their wearable brand is iFit, and their shoe brand is Ultra. And I have to tell you a real quick story. I ran for years with my wife. We ran marathons and half marathons. And at 50 years old, I was still really, really young, but my knees were really old, so they quit working. So my wife bought me a bike, and for quite a while then, I became a pretty serious road biker. And then my wife crashed and broke her shoulder and said, I'm not biking anymore. And so when she's training and running and I'm biking, we don't see each other. So I said, okay, I'll try to go back to being a runner, but I don't think my knees will take it. So I started running, and I got up to 3 miles and 4 miles, and I just couldn't do it. And then I discovered zero-drop shoes. I haven't told you this story. And what I learned is with a typical running shoe, you have an 8 to maybe 12 millimeter lift, and so it's pushing your knees forward and straining your knees. And zero-drop shoes are flat, like our feet. So I bought some Ultra running shoes, and I've been able to keep up with my wife. We ran a marathon last year, and even at my age, I'm doing another one this year, and it's because of the zero-drop shoes. So very innovative brands. Scott graduated from Logan High School and went on a mission to Taiwan for the LDS Church, and then graduated from Utah State in marketing and Chinese, and he's been able to maintain his Chinese language, which is awesome. And he's a great servant of our community. Here's just a few boards he served on. The Utah State University Foundation, Make-A-Wish Foundation, the Utah Foundation, the Employers Council of Utah, and right now he's currently the vice chair of the Utah State University Board of Trustees. So we are absolutely thrilled that someone with Scott's busy schedule would come and speak to us. So let's welcome Scott Watterson.
Thank you, that was good. Marketing is always better done by the pros than by the Joes, and so I'm glad to have that precede me. At least it lets you know a little bit about our company if I failed to get the message across today. Thank you, Mike. Really happy to be here. Utah State is a near and dear place in my heart for so many reasons. Not to mention one of least, which is Michelle, my wife, and I used to meet right in front of the business school. Right there every lunch break, and we plotted out our dating strategy together, right here. So we have a lot of ties to Utah State. My mother was the 4th graduate of the business school at Utah State, and the 1st female graduate in accounting at Utah State ever. She's now. She's now 96 and was Icon's first employee. We've been learning about venture capitalists, and the first venture capitalists with Icon were 3 men. Gary Stevenson's father, Evan, my father, Alma Watterson, and Brad Sorensen's father, Evan. They each gave us $1,000. And that's how Icon started. They were the venture capitalists of our generation of time. And that was, and we headquartered our business in our home. And we couldn't afford our own phone line at the time. And so my mother would answer the phone. Icon Health and Fitness, only at the time it was called Westlow. So Icon Health and Fitness, the Watterson's home. That's what she would say. And so she became our first operating member of our company. Since then, we've gone through a lot of metamorphoses, a lot of changes. Certainly, the road has been paved with many, many failures. Failure is not something you want to be a friendly companion with, but it is a necessary companion. So what you need to learn how to do is you'll need to learn how to get up. That's the important lesson about the failure. is getting up again and again and again after you've been knocked down again and again and again. We're living in a remarkable time of history. And Utah itself is in a remarkable place. Innovation is coming at us at rapid fire. Change is happening on a regular basis. I can assure you that all of these wonderful businesses, and by the way, I got a chance to visit with many of you. What a compliment you are to this great community and to this great state. I really believe in the state of Utah with 3 million people that we are on the forefront of innovation and product design and business design. And I wonder why. And I guess it's probably because we sense optimism here, maybe in a way that other areas can't. But I assure you that in the next 20 to 50 years, not only will we be known regionally and within the United States, but throughout the whole world as a source of great innovation, as a great source of entrepreneurialism. The Utah State University School of Business, of which I'm very proud to be a graduate from, I don't know how I managed to get through it, but I did, is also leading on teaching about entrepreneurialism. So my talk and visit today, and then we'll open it up to questions in a little bit, is going to be to talk about critical optimism. What is critical optimism? I'll tell you what it is not. It is not fake vibrato. It is not ignoring of facts. It's not blind. And I'll tell you what it is. Critical optimism is informed, calculated, measured, it's active, it's real. It's the ability to bring, if you will, to light the problem and then create the solution. Think about any good movie, novel, book that you read. Think of the stories that we've just heard here today. They deserve each of them to be told. Look at what's happened in this great community with Maloof and what they've done. This is an opportunity to take your stories and broadcast them and make sure everybody gets a chance to hear them. They deserve to be heard. And there are many times where the problem starts with the failure. Many times when the problem of what to do is challenged by a pessimistic outlook. It's the optimist that is the entrepreneur. It is the optimist that makes this world go around. Winston Churchill said, and as you think of those movies, I got a little distracted on the movie, so I'll come back to that. You think of any good movie, it starts out with a problem or a plot or a challenge. And it ends with overcoming that, with some optimistic, critical analysis of how to figure their way out of the box. In my generation, it's called the MacGyver effect. It's the ability to find a way out of something that's impossible, again, again, and again, and again. And that's what an optimist is. That's what an entrepreneur is. That is somebody who can take something, get knocked down, get back up again, accept the fact for what it is, and then don't accept it. Winston Churchill said of optimism, he says, a pessimist sees difficulties in every opportunity. An optimist sees opportunities in every difficulty. Fortunately, as I've studied this subject, I've come to appreciate the fact that optimism is not a is not an inherited trait. It is behavioral. It is something that we can all learn. It's something that we can change if we are pessimistic into optimistic. It's necessary. Think of the fitness industry that I'm part of. Think if consumers didn't want to lose weight and didn't see exercise as a way to accomplish that. What if they had a pessimistic view of exercise? What if they saw a treadmill as a way to increase heart disease and cause osteoporosis? What if they saw it as fake? We wouldn't have a business. It's the ability to then take that energy, and that hope is another terminology for optimism, to take that hope and translate it into something that provides a good or service to a person that has hope for something, for a better way. And with that in mind, I just want to focus on some business stories because they seem to resonate well. In snowboarding, I don't know what it's called, but when you can do a 180, a 360, how far do they go? 720s? Do they go more than that? 1680s? 1680s, okay? That's really what you're going to have to do, you entrepreneurs that have received these awards and those that will receive them in the future that are here today. You'll have to be able to be a snowboarder and turn your business around again and again and again and again. The workshop, then, of effecting that change is the workshop of an optimist, an optimism. See, critical optimism is like a magnifying glass. I'm sure you've all done this, and you don't need to confess to me today that you have. But when you were a young child, did you ever get a magnifying glass and go out on the sidewalk, find an ant, and then focus the light from that magnifying glass of the sun into one spot and fry that ant? Shame on you. I did too. Of course, probably you didn't do that. You probably just did it with blades of grass. It was really quite an experiment where you could harness the light of the sun into one spot and create all kinds of energy. That's critical optimism. It's taking the focus necessary to recognize the state of play, to acknowledge where you are in business, in your personal lives, in any aspect of your world that you want to be in. Be a realist. Acknowledge the state of play. And then do something about it. Bring to light, through that adjusting magnifying glass, all the energy of your soul. Because inside of you is an entrepreneur. Inside of each of us is an optimist. Really, we all have hope. Sometimes we've been bombarded by failure to the point that we hide that optimism. Entrepreneurs overcome that, and they get up again and again, and they optimistically say, no, let's pivot to this. Icon started out, when about 20 years, was it 20 years ago? 20 years ago, some guy came up and says, I'd like to write a chapter in a book about you. And I said, sure you would. That's a bunch of baloney. But he did. And I have to confess, it sat on in my library for 20 years. I haven't looked at it, other than when you wrote it. And this is Mike Glauser, and he was introducing me today. And so I said, and I put it all together. And so I went and I read the chapter. It was and it was really, really good reading. But it helped me appreciate the road that Icon has gone down. We started with candelabras, brass candelabras. We started out with 3 of us. We started out with a loan from our dads. We went into marble. We took turns. One was the delivery boy, one was the salesman. We made it so that they thought we were a big company. We got an office over the Zions Bank so we could tell people we sat above a lot of assets. Then we went from wood-burning stoves into outdoor trampolines, of all things, because there was a cyclicality and a seasonality to the wood-burning stove business. It was great when it was snowing. It was terrible when it was sunshiny. So we sold these big trampolines. We went to a company who said, we will sell 500 of them in a summer if you give us an exclusive deal. Oh, sure, they said. Do not lie. We went out and we consigned these big trampolines in front of these wood-burning stove mom and pop shops. And we said, we'll come back in 2 weeks. If you haven't sold them, we'll pick them up. We didn't pick up one of them. In 2 weeks, we had sold 500. Here's the rest of that story. That company in Florida, who is no longer in business, and I'm not ashamed to tell you that, they said, oh, we were just kidding about that contract we signed on exclusive. You've shown us a way to do it ourselves, and so we're going to do it ourselves. Well, being the entrepreneur that we were at the time, we said, well, that's not real fair. Again, knocked right off our saddle. We had no source of supply. We were undercapitalized, and we saw an opportunity, and we were dead. Thank you. The company is called Round Trampoline. Thank you, Round Trampoline, from Tallahassee, Florida, for being so nice to us, because then we had to figure out a way. We had to come up with a critical, optimistic strategy where we assembled, brought in parts from China and Taiwan, and built these big outdoor trampolines. And of course, we survived that life cycle, and they didn't, thanks to Round Trampoline. But we went from trampolines to mini trampolines to exercise equipment. We went from a treadmill to rowers to all types of products to light exercise. We went from one brand to multiple brands. We went from one channel of distribution to every channel of distribution that sells fitness equipment. We went from selling brick and mortar to online. We went from Sears. In the last 10 years, we've taken over $500 million a year in sales through, say, Sears and Sports Authority, were brick and mortar companies, that's gone down to zero, and we've replaced that in new channels of distribution with Amazon, online retail, and with our own direct-to-consumer business. Thank you, Al Gore, for inventing the internet. Again, take an optimistic view of where you find yourself in the circumstance you're in and go forward. We are now turning our business again, another 360, into a service business. We're a subscription model business now. SaaS, S-A-A-S. I call it sassy because I don't really, I just barely learned what SaaS means, but all of you wise young entrepreneurs know what service as a subscription means. That's our iFit business. You saw some remnants of that. That's where we take interactive personal training, coaching, educating, and fitness enthusiast personal trainers right into a person's home. And we stream it live. And that personal trainer can take your treadmill wherever you are in the world, except for Provo, Utah. I really met with the ring people, and that is really a compelling business idea, by the way, because it's personalized, and it's online, and it's interactive. And so that's what iFit does, and you can do it anywhere in the world. We had film crews out last week in Kilimanjaro, running up the face of Kilimanjaro, so you now can run up the face of Kilimanjaro. 2 weeks ago, Michelle and I were in Rome, and what a great opportunity we had before we went to Rome to run around the Colosseum and to find the places we were going to be, so when we got there, we knew what we were visiting. It was great to be able to do that, but more importantly, I had a personal trainer teaching me what I needed to do, how I need to hold my shoulders back, and what type of strides, where I need to run on what I need to do. That all happens, and now we've become a SaaS business, which subscription as a service. I think of the shoe business. We took that from, again, 3 guys without any money, no sales, not a order, not a sell of a product. Again, and their only handicap is they were BYU students. But we accept all kinds. And so they had an idea, waiting for an entrepreneurial business to help them get started. So we invested with them, and we took that business in about 3 or 4 years from $0 to $50 million. We sold it recently to a wonderful company for a multiple that I would not dare share with you, because then you would be asking me for all kinds of money, and I don't have that to give you. But it was a remarkable feat, and we sold it to VF that owns Vans, and now that business can continue to grow. Because the reason we got into the shoe business, again, it was a counter-seasonal business to fitness. Exercise equipment is sold predominantly through the winter months, and as summer comes, then we want to go outside, and we want to try it out on the road ourselves. And so we saw cyclicality or seasonalness into that business, and we thought we could offset that with something. We started this shoe company, and it did just that. But what's emerged now is this iFit business, which is I don't know if we can even get our hands around it. We're part of a $4.2 trillion wellness industry. Okay, let's go to the next. Okay, it's $4.2 trillion. Its CAGR growth rate is 12.5%. It's twice as fast as the global economy. That's the wellness industry. Next. 30 billion of it, or 4% annual growth, is in the space that ICON has been part of for a long time, which is the exercise component, both at home and in club, both through Planet Fitness and through Orange Theory. We're the largest supplier of Orange Theory treadmills, and we have over 50% market share in big, large ticket home exercise equipment. As big as that is, $170 billion is predicted in the wellness and mindfulness marketplace. That's an area of relaxation, yoga, and all those other emerging businesses where we're now taking naps at lunch in New York City in a pod. That's part of the world that we're now part of. Next. There's $29 billion with a 46% growth over the next in just sleep. I was talking to a young entrepreneur here today that has a technology that monitors kids and measures their respiratory rate. We have that's amazing. Maloof is a good company. You guys would know this industry better than I, but that's now becoming part of the fitness and wellness industry. Next. $383 billion growth rate in nutrition. And that's a business we've just now barely started, where we're getting into customized, personalized shakes. Because not every two people are the same. They're all different. So a man and a woman, someone who's old like me and someone who's young like you, will have different needs and different goals. And so you have to tailor even the simple powder shake towards something that is customized and personalized to the individual. So that's how that, and so where is ICON going as a company? There's where it's going. You've seen where it's been, you're seeing where it's pivoting, you're seeing where it's changing. And the only way the hardest thing I've done in my business career is to change the business that it has been so successful at in the last couple of decades and pivoting it into a subscription model business, a service-based business, and being able to find inter-company entrepreneurs that are able to take an idea and make a difference and see where we're going. And so we identify the opportunity, we take a realistic view of where we're at, what we're doing, and then we go out and we try and we avoid every failure we know how to, because failure is not a companion you want. It's a necessary evil you have. And it lasts as long as you let the fear of that failure reside in your heart and mind. And when you get back off the ground with the failure and you pivot yourself into the emerging, changing opportunity before you, you then can write the novel and the book, the movie, the MacGyver moment, where you take critical optimism and empower the future. And so I'm going to invite you to do that. The difference between when you get married, if you choose to, that's your choice, or you have a significant other, if you choose to, that's your choice. But you have to learn the language of that significant other. And I've learned a lot of languages since I've been with my significant other. And I've learned, for example, if I say, let's go eat Chinese food because I really like Chinese food. And her response, because she's so nice, would be, whatever. I used to think that really meant what it meant, whatever. So we went to the Chinese restaurant. No, that's not what that language was. It is no. And it even got to a point where we emphasized it, not with a four-letter word, but pretty close. Heck no. No, I don't want to eat there. Whatever means no. Okay? Whatever is a pessimist, and she's not. An optimist takes that word and adds two other words to it. Whatever it takes. That's the difference between a pessimist and an optimist. Whatever means no way. When you surround yourself with people, and I realize I just made a mistake. My wife is an optimist, and I didn't mean to say she's a pessimist, so let's clear that table. Or I'll be learning a new language tonight again, okay? Okay. Sometimes I get out in front of my skis. But anyway, so whatever is someone who basically doesn't believe you. A person who doesn't believe themselves, yeah, whatever. A professor says, study this chapter carefully, it will change your life. Oh yeah, whatever. No, why don't you start this idea in your business? Oh yeah, whatever. Then there's a few people, the optimist, who goes, sure, whatever it takes. It's the whatever it takes person that you want to surround yourself with. 4 things you can do to improve your optimistic view and your optimistic approach to business. And I'm going to suggest those with you. 1 is surround yourself with whatever it takes people, optimistic people. That's who you want to have in your organizations. Not fake optimism, not, oh, it's sunny outside today, can't you see? No, not fake, real. I like what I heard. Oh, the rain in the valley. I mean, we could have taken a pessimistic view of what we see outside right now, but he didn't. Okay. Surround yourself, number 1, with optimistic people. Number 2, fill your life, your soul, your being with your people, in your home with gratitude. Be grateful for efforts and energies to make your organization go forward. Acknowledge gratitude in all that you do. Gratitude is the best elixir for becoming optimistic. Number 3 is practice. Because it is a learned behavior, practice it. I call it, the 4th thing I'll call is the morning highlight reel. I remember one person, I won't reveal in what capacity I knew them in, but it was in a young adult age of their life. Highly, highly effective person. The only problem is she didn't realize it. She came to me and she says, I am a failure. From the outside looking in, everybody that were her peers said, are you kidding? They wouldn't have believed that she had that opinion of herself. She was knocking the ball out of the park in the particular area of service that I was involved with her in. So I invited her to do one thing. Every morning, I wanted her to do a highlight reel of her life. Some of you have played ball sports, and you know what a highlight reel is. If you want to be recruited at Utah State, you take all the best moments in your high school football career, and you put them in a highlight reel, and you send them out to the coaches. You don't put any of the bad fumbles and the offsides and the mistakes. You don't put those in the highlight reel. You just take the successes, the catches, the runs, the overcoming difficulties. That's what you put in your highlight reel, and you send it out. One way to become more optimistic is run a highlight reel of yourself in the morning. I invited this person to look in the mirror every morning, take a realistic snapshot. That's fair, that's fine. But then I asked that person to tell herself 5 things that she was good at, and to say at the end, and you are an amazing person. And it changed her life. And I recently got a chance to see her again after a 10, 15-year, 12-year distance between our lives when they last were together. She's married happily. She's got all kinds of success stories. She's very successful in her life. And she attributes that morning highlight reel to part of the success of her happiness and optimism. So that's something else you can do. And if you want to play whatever they call it, primary, where you get up and sit down, what's that Simon Says? Practice Simon Says. That's what I've had to do my whole life. I think things are going good, and bam, I get sat down, and then I got to stand back up again. Practice getting up and up again and seeing the world in a positive way. So gratitude, morning highlight reel, surround yourself with positive people, and then practice. Practice. Go up to someone and say, I'm thankful for what you did in my life. Write a letter to somebody. Made a difference in your life. Tell one of your coworkers, thanks. Try it. And then the next time you see a day like today, say, no, I'm going to MacGyver this. I'm going to figure out a way to see a positive outlook here. I'm going to take advantage of this opportunity. I'm not going to let it defeat me, because pessimists are weak people who have been overcome by fear. An optimist is somebody who has courage, fortitude, determination, and aims to make the world that they live in a better place. That's why you are here today. Unless you're here to get some funding, I don't know. But that's the key. And I am so proud to be part of Utah State, to be part of the great Cache Valley. Cache Valley, you know, they talk about Silicon Slopes, and that's great for the Provo marketplace, but Silicon Slopes comes all the way up here. We have over 90 patents, for example, in our iFit technology platform, two-way interactive, where we can control your speed and incline and resistance on a product live while we're on the slopes of Kilimanjaro. Don't think that place down there is the only place that has technology. And look at all the technology and the businesses started here. Look at this business. I am so excited about this. This is a neat product. And it's solving a problem. It's being able to have on demand, when you want it, your choice of flavor. Now, you can go buy anybody's machine or product, or you can buy this one. I'm an optimist, and so this is the one I want to buy. And the guy who invented this is right here from Cache Valley. And so I think that's just amazing. And I would be honored if I could ever rub shoulders in any capacity with you great entrepreneurs that I've heard here today. And if I could add anything to what you are doing and about to do, I'd love to, because you are the future of enterprise. You are the future of the well-being of my grandchildren. You will make a difference, and it starts by being critically optimistic. So that's my thoughts for today, okay? Now, if there's any questions, we have a couple of minutes for Q&A, because that's what I'd really like to answer, any real questions. And usually during a Q&A sessions, people wait for a minute. And you heard what I thought about fear, so don't do that. Be an optimist and come up with a question. Any questions? Yes?
My name's Tate. I'm a current student here at the Huntsman School. I want to know what keeps you and your business in Cache Valley, because a lot of people think they need to leave Cache Valley to be successful, and I'm not from here, so what is the draw that keeps you here instead of, a major city?
Things grow better in Cache Valley. Raspberries are better in Cache Valley. The mountain trails are better in Cache Valley. The brain power is better in Cache Valley. The loyalty factors that you get by being in a community of this scale and size, with it being supported by a major research university, is better than other places. It's recognizing this place that just reeks with optimism. That's why we're here. Okay, good question. Next.
Hey, Scott. As you are in kind of this mode where, these are very big industries. You have a lot of competition. I'm not saying you're necessarily a small fish. You're a good mid-sized fish, but there's a lot of much bigger fish and whales out there in the wearable tech and in the fitness industry, and then you're talking about going into wellness shakes, et cetera. What do you do, and what do you focus on in your company to enable you to remain innovative against these high-dollar competition that you see outside, but still in the same, in your same market, but outside of what you guys are doing?
Perfect question. Jack and the Beanstalk maybe is a good illustration of what you need to do. Or you look at the mountain and you say, okay, I got to move that mountain. You do it by one shovel at a time. You've heard all those analogies. You chop, 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 chop at the big giants until they fall. But the axe that I would use in Jack and the Beanstalk, if you will, to take on some bigger companies in this space is innovation. Plain, simple product innovation or design innovation. It's where you can have something that somebody else doesn't have. And that is not enabled by scale of human resource base. It is enabled by your connectivity to opportunity and to a source beyond your own ability to be creative and differentiate yourself into the marketplace. And so I think I had one of your first belts. Did you make belts? No. Okay, different company. Okay, sorry. But, you've got yourself I think that's a very fair question if I understand your business model, because there's a lot of people who make shoes. Klein, you familiar with that company? So he was a guy who was at Reebok, the senior executive at Reebok, and I got to know him because we had a license with the Reebok company. And he retired and he decided he still had some entrepreneurial instincts in him, and so he started that little teeny business. And he could have looked at that and said, wait a minute, I've been at Reebok, a multi-billion-dollar company. How can I get Klein, which is a zero company, into scale? And over the last decade, as you know probably better than I do, he has taken from a startup idea of a shoe, a sandal, and grown into a very highly profitable business. So he differentiated himself. He had a little different sandal than the next guy. Good question.
Thank you, Scott. Les Patterson, how do you take this concept of being critically optimistic and infuse that down through a very large organization, multiple levels, managers, employees, so it gets all the way down to that worker that's on the line and to the VP and to the CEO?
That, as I said, the hardest thing I've had to do in my business career, that's just long now, 40 plus years, is to be able to allow change to be a friendly part of a non-changing business. And that is really, really hard to do. It starts by taking some of your key executives up on a mountain and telling them you'll shoot them if they aren't optimistic. And some you have to shoot. But it's a matter of starting with those individuals and seeing if they can buy into that approach. It's by inviting the question, okay? As a practice in my business experience, anytime someone says, I've got a problem, or my department has a problem, you got too many returns, or you've got, you're getting a 3-star review on this thing. What are you going to do about it? How, you're not doing, your social marketing is wrong. I encourage that. That's the critical part. The next thing that I do as a management technique, and it's only that, is I says, now what are you going to do about it? That's where you can tell if someone's a pessimist or an optimist. And it's the person that you invite, you empower, you enable the individual and the different groups or the different management and the different people all the way down to the bottom to have a say in the solution. Almost a requirement in it. And that gets them off their seat of fear, failure, and pessimism into active solution, problem, optimism. Okay, you bet.
I'm just wondering, when you started your company, and even now, if you focused on retail or wholesale, and how did you differentiate the two if you sold the same thing on your retail website as you offered your wholesale customers?
Great question. I got a chance to meet with her earlier today, and inspiring. Their goal is to be able to put their husbands to work. I thought that was a real formidable challenge, and I applaud you for that. I understand why you asked that question, because of the nature of your product. It's a consumer product. So if I were 10 years ago, I would have started in brick and mortar with you. Today, I would say the easiest on-ramp into a commerce consumer products business would be through the likes of an Amazon. They come one, come all, $800 billion. And you would try and get some good reviews. I'd encourage you to understand about social marketing and to develop that skill set. It is critical to your well-being in the consumer products business right now. And then I would recognize that the alternative to the big online omni-channel retail strategy will be a direct-to-consumer strategy. And that would be the place that I'd want you to get to. But in order to get to there, you might have to take some steps along the way and make sure the brick and mortar you sell to has the ability to pay you, because many of them are in a very hostile environment as online retailing is capturing a lot of their consumers. But you need them. So if you can take your product into a Nordstrom's or someone like that, are you kidding me? That gives you such brand awareness and capability that will launch you then in a different way into some of the other strategies. So multi-channel strategy is fundamental to your well-being in consumer products today. It's going to require them all. And the latest buzzword that the business schools call it, they call it omni-channel. So you'll see a Walmart be able to deliver goods out of their brick and mortar, and you'll be able to buy online. And they're an entity that if if I were Amazon, and I'm not, boy, wouldn't that be nice? If I were Amazon, I'd be concerned about that model. Because you'll see Amazon have to morph themselves into, and they already are, to their Whole Foods and whatever retail distribution strategy. So that was a real complicated answer. I basically told you do it all. I was out to another university on the East Coast a couple weeks ago, and I was speaking to their student body, and then afterwards the business school asked me to come talk to them. And a professor, Harvard professor there, had secretly, without me knowing, pulled up my incorporation documents when we incorporated. By the way, when we incorporated, we went to the lawyer, and the first thing he asked us, what's the name of your company? And we said, what? Do you have to have a name to incorporate? I mean, that's how naive we were, right? Okay. And so we came up with Westlow, which was the three founders' initials in a combination. W was first, figure that one out. But anyway, okay. And so them sitting here talking, and someone asked that same kind of question, and then he flipped up on the screen without me knowing about what we had written in our incorporation things. We said we'll sell furniture, we'll sell shoes, we'll be in real estate. It was a list of a bunch of things. At the very end of the thing, it says, or we'll do whatever it takes. And it saved me, because that's exactly, you entrepreneurs, what you got to do. And whatever it takes will be different and individual and customized to your endeavor. So that's why I'm focusing on critical optimism. Pump yourself up with caffeine and optimism and go to work. Okay, next question.
Okay. Thank you, Scott. Nate Rubin, thanks for the shout out. So when I started my company, I didn't realize how much time it would take, and I'm a father of 4 kids, and so one thing we're always struggling with is time between work and time building relationships with my family. What choices did you and your wife have to make in order to maintain that relationship while still giving the time that the company demands of you?
What a great question. My answer is have 5. That's how many we have.
So you say one more.
At least. My other answer to that question is interesting. One of my business partners and I, we were together forever until recently, and he's doing something else. But we looked at our kids, and lo and behold, they are all about the same age, and they all were born within just a few months of each other. And it really, I promise you, we had no discussions around the boardroom about when to have children, not one. We never discussed that, never have in our whole life. But for some reason, the stress in the business at the time, or the amount of efforts that we were spending time, I don't know how it all works, okay? But what a coincidence, right? Is that our kids happened on this earth about the same time. And we shared the same ecosystem in terms of business, and so that was an interesting thing. Never, from my point of view, ever sacrifice family over any of your business appetites. Ever. Never. So I've been on trips and taken private jets and come back to watch a stupid football game that he hardly played in. So that's my 2 bits. Now, some people might disagree with me, and that's their prerogative, but that's what I believe makes a difference, because when it's all said and done, that's the heritage that you will, and your legacy will be by the effort you put into that family, and you can be successful. The idea that businessmen can't be successful, no. The idea that no, I don't buy it, I don't accept it. Statistics are stacked against you as a CEO. CEOs and they have a challenging statistical history with the continuity of a family unit. They find themselves going through a cycle. I don't know, I guess my wife would have to answer that, because that'd be the only other answer, but it's too late to give you that answer. But those of you that aren't married yet, I'd say marry up. That's the best key to accomplishing your goals in business and anything, is to make sure you got the glue that will keep that union together, and that's what I have with my wife. Okay, next question.
We have time for one more question.
Good. All right. Well, I want to thank you. Yeah, okay, go ahead.
One more. Scott, I know you've been doing this for 40 years now, right?
Correct.
So, in that 40, is this on here? Okay. In that 40-year journey, you've gone through a lot of political cycles, economic cycles, a lot of uncertainty. How have you driven, and it's impressive you've stayed with the business, you've cycled it 4 times?
When you mean cycle, I've sold it 4 times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Actually 5 now. But
5?
Just bought it back. So go ahead.
And so how have you, can you speak to us just about how that journey's gone and how you've been able to go in and persist in uncertain times through, uncertain future, and continue to just kind of talk about your evolution and how you've pushed forward through that? And you've had plenty of opportunities to bow out and go do something else, but you've stuck to things, and that's just very impressive.
Yeah, I think it's, in my case, which is something I'm hoping nobody else has, is I have the stupidity factor. Okay, so I haven't figured out that when I stop hitting my head against the wall, it actually feels better. So I just keep on doing it. Actually, it's life. Somebody who I really, really, really admire was asked a question similar to this, that is in a different forum that his life has put him in. And they said, well, how can you be in this religious setting here, and in personal practice you were in this organizational behavioral training there, and how can you make those 2 worlds, how do you transfer from one world to the next world? And he said, because I don't. He says, what I do in one world and the other world is one world. I'm the same. Always. And I think if your human nature in your life, we've been getting some personal questions and some family questions. Examine your critical, optimistic view of your own life. And there should be no differences. They should be intertwined. And so if I'm not active in ICON in the future, I will still be part of that. Because I have the founder's gene in me. And if it were all about money, then that's all it would be about. But all of you who are sitting here today, I promise you, you know better, or you wouldn't have started something. It's not all about money. Money's good. I've got 4.5 shots of cash in my career on selling the business to somebody and then having them buy it, then them giving me back 50% of it and then selling it again. Bain Capital, Mitt Romney, all those good guys, they've all been here sleeping in our house and all that good stuff. And we've done that with them. Credit Suisse, we've done that with them. We've done that with Stan Tuttleman, who was the largest shareholder of the Limited, which Gap and all those businesses. A wonderful Jewish man. And by rubbing shoulders with all those people, by monetizing as you go, the reality of who you are matters so much more than if you choose to step off. I mean, it was a hard decision to get rid of a baby in Ultra, right? I mean, freaking hard to do, but I needed so much more capital in iFit that I had to do something about it. So I chose to do something about it. But I'll be an Ultra shoe salesman as long as I live. So I didn't answer your question because I know what it's all about, and you're going to have to fight that battle and make the decision. Good luck. Okay, thank you very much.